there everyone.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel.
It's not your YouTube channel, it's my YouTube channel, okay?
Okay, bye.
Hey there. So what else is there to tell you all guys? So she already welcomed you all to this particular channel. It's fine. Whatever I thought to say, she told you all. Now in today's video, we are going to discuss about GraphRAG. The main agenda of this particular video will be divided into two topics, where the first topic will be that we'll be discussing about what is GraphRAG and how is it different from the traditional RAG approach. And we are going to see what are the advantages and the drawbacks of using GraphRAG as well. And finally, in the stage 2, that is our second session, where we are going to practically implement GraphRAG. I'll be showing you all the codes and I'll be implementing it, an end-to-end production level code, you can say, where we are going to write it and implement it. You all can also implement along with me. It's going to be very interesting. It took more time for me to research and come up with this particular video, as well as there were many errors to solve in the code. So I have finally solved it as well. I'm expecting you all for this efforts to do subscribe the channel, like, share, and even tag me on LinkedIn. Upload this video, share with your community, tag me on LinkedIn. I'll definitely respond to your comments as well. Let's grow our community together. So guys, now let's not waste our time. Let's dive into my computer screen and discuss more about. So guys, here you all can see the Microsoft Research blog, where you can see this blog explains you all about how can you apply a traditional RAG method in a private data sets, how can you work on it, and what is the difference between the normal traditional baseline RAG and the GraphRAG. So they have compared it very well, and this article looks very interesting. So I would definitely recommend you all to go through this article. Apart from this, even like I have gone through this, I and my team, so we have created a simplified article on Medium. You can see here, this is the article using which even I am going to explain now, where we have simplified the topics, and it's going to be very interesting whatever we are going to explain. So you can just go through this blog as well. Everything will be in this video description. So now let's start with our content. In the world of AI, researchers have long gap with the challenge of creating language models. So in a sense, now whatever we are creating, right, the traditional RAG method, there are many challenges out there. So if you are creating a traditional RAG, you should have a vector database and you should work over it. So let me just show you all. For you all, I have even kept this is a traditional RAG architecture ready. So I'll just explain you all in a simplified form here. So normally whatever URLs or PDFs or database you have, from that the documents you need to split into chunks and you need to store them in a vector store or a vector database, from where the user, if he is going to ask question, then we are going to use cosine similarity and we are going to retrieve the splits, and based on the prompt and LLM we have, it is going to answer. In short, to say, document loading and splitting the document, storing the data in a vector database, and we are going to retrieve it based on the question. For suppose if you ask about any car, like about Ferrari, so if your database or the PDF contains anything about Ferrari, so it will first perform cosine similarity. For the question, what is the closest answer, a similarity answer which is relying, and it is going to print the top 1 or 2. You can provide a customized answer like top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can define it top k. So in that you can define how many top responses you want. If you define 1, then it is going to only show you all one response, top first response based on the similarity of the question. I hope you all got this. This is a very easy method to understand, and this image which you are seeing, it also looks very interesting and easy to understand as well. So let's go back to our explanation. You can see here, traditional RAG models combine the power of large language models with information retrieval, allowing them to supplement their generated response with relevant facts. So as I explained you all, based on the question we ask, it is going to perform the cosine similarity and it is going to retrieve the answer. That is more about traditional RAG. So what are the limitations of traditional RAG? Flat retrieval. In a sense, RAG treats each document as an isolated piece of information. In a sense, So the RAG database which you are having, or the LLM model, right? It doesn't understand. Like, imagine you are reading a book of page without knowing the connection in between. For example, let's take our Bollywood movies or even Tollywood movies. All the movies, within the song ends, the song starts at one where the guy will be a poor guy. Within the song completes, he will be a rich guy with Ferrari, buildings and everything. So if you give that information to your RAG model and ask about that person, it will tell you a poor guy owns Ferrari. So there is no that level of contextual understanding for RAG method, you can say traditional RAG. And even, yeah, the contextual shortcomings which I have told you all, without understanding the relationship between the context and AI. In a sense, like for example, here is a good example you can see here. A librarian who knows where to find the book doesn't understand what is the connection and between the stories in that book. That's right. Whoever librarian who is working on a schools or a library, so he knows where you can find those particular book which you want. But can he tell you whatever stories are there in that book? He will not remember them all, right? The same contextual understanding will not be there in RAG as well. And scalability issues, as the amount of information you gain. So RAG is ultimately, it's just a vector database and the LLM model is working behind it. So the more information it gains, the more complex of understanding the information and retrieving will become. So that is what scalability issues means. And so from Microsoft RAG, you can see here, this is about the Microsoft RAG. These all what I have explained till now are the traditional RAG issues. Okay, so now we are going to go with Microsoft GraphRAG and understand how good it is compared to traditional RAG. Okay, so what is GraphRAG? So by the name itself, it suggests that nothing but graph and retrieval-augmented generation. So those who all are working on Neo4j and those who are working on GraphDB, they already knows like how does a GraphDB works. So you have to specify the relationship between the data, whatever it comes, and based on the relationships, it creates a visual representation of nodes. And the data, whatever data which there in GraphDB, that is very clear and you can easily understand that by just seeing the nodes itself. That is what they have connected here. So it's a revolutionary advancement in the field of retrieval augmented generation. It means that instead of working only with the unstructured text data, in GraphRAG what it happens is the whatever text data you are going to provide, it is going to convert that into a graph or a visual nodes, you can say, where the knowledge base is provided. So previously which we are working on, there is a no knowledge base, you can say, it's an unstructured text. Here whatever the relationships and whatever information is there in that particular text, it finds out the relationships and creates a visual nodes and graph. And finally, whatever questions if we are going to ask, based on the relationships, it can clearly answer. Our model can clearly answer the questions. Here you can see here, by representing information in this structured format, GraphRAG can overcome the limitation of traditional approach. The knowledge graph allows for more precise and comprehensive retrieval of relevant information, enabling the model to generate responses that are not only factually accurate but also contextually relevant and covers all the necessary aspects of the query. In a sense, like in normal RAG traditional approach, whatever questions we are going to ask based on the similarity is going to revert you back with the updated answer, top answer. But here in GraphRAG, what it happens, when you ask a question, so the GraphRAG will make sure that it is factually correct and even contextually it is relevant to your question. So whatever question you are going to ask, it will make sure that the context of that particular question it understands first, and based on that question it will definitely retrieve the contextual answer. Like the same example which I told you all of the Bollywood song, like starting from poor guy and becoming a rich guy within the 4 minutes of time frame, that also the model can understand. When you ask how did you own Ferrari, then it will answer you that a poor guy who became, like you can say, a poor guy who did so much of hard work and finally he earned his Ferrari. So it's just an example you can guess, like, but GraphRAG can understand the visual representation and nodes, and it can definitely answer you all questions. Key features of GraphRAG: structured knowledge based representation. So relationships and entities, everything will be clearly, and it is in a hierarchical structure. You can say we can maintain it as a structure. It's easy to understand and contextually relevant. The knowledge base enables GraphRAG to understand semantic context and relationship, allowing for more comprehensive retrieval. Okay. Efficient pre-processing. Processing the data of knowledge base reduces computational cost and enables fast retrieval compared to traditional RAG approach. So in traditional RAG approach, if you see the vector database, if you own, you have to provide the data there, and when you ask question, the model will go and search in a knowledge base, or you can say the vector database. It is going to read line by line the entire data, and based on that it is going to provide you the answer. So here you can say the time also, it takes more time and it is computationally high. But when you use GraphRAG, relationships are already predefined. So the model can easily understand the relationship of each questions, and whatever question you are going to ask, contextually it will relate to that particular question, and immediately it is going to retrieve the answer. So you can say that if, for suppose, if you are going to retrieve answer in normal traditional RAG, it takes approximately 3 to 5 minutes. In GraphRAG, it will just take you in 1 to 2 minutes. And it also depends on your GPU and your configurations as well. So how fast the model should retrieve. Explainability. The structured knowledge represents the GraphRAG provided more transparent and explainability compared to black box language models. In a sense, the black box language models like the LLM models, whatever we are having, ChatGPT, and all the LLM models, whether they are open source or closed source, you can say they are a kind of black box models. In a sense, when you ask a question, what is a backend process, you will never get to know. It is using the neural networks, but how it is finding that answers, you will never get to know. It's a kind of black box. But here you can say that whatever questions you are going to ask, you will have a track on it. You will get you can correlate with the answers as well. Continuous learning. GraphRAG can continuously learn and expand its knowledge base by incorporating new information into the knowledge base. So GraphRAG has the capability to continuously learn, and whatever, if you have predefined nodes with the relationship, now if you update a latest data, it will connect to those nodes only. It is not going to create another nodes or something. So here contextual relationships and everything will be very clear and easy to understand, and the model can continuously learn as well. So when it comes to traditional RAG and GraphRAG, if you want me to give a simple example, it's like a teacher teaching you about, you can say, transformers in your 10th standard directly, without knowing about Python or without knowing about neural networks. They are directly teaching you about transformers. So how complex you are going to feel. The same way when it comes to GraphRAG, it is like you are going to train a model or train a person from his childhood. So from 1 to 10 he is going to learn Python, and from 10 to 12 he is going to learn more about computer knowledge. He is going to gain about operating systems and other things. Then finally neural networks and other things. And finally in his degree he is going to learn about transformers, and it's how it is a black box, encoder, decoder structures and everything. So here it varies, right? The more complex the question will be, and the more difficulty it is to achieve, or you can say it is to understand for a traditional model, but not for a GraphRAG approach. Okay. Applications of GraphRAG. So you have two use cases in healthcare. GraphRAG can help medical professors quickly find relevant information for a large volume of medical literature to answer complex questions about patient symptoms, treatments, and outcomes. This can be even used in pharmaceutical also. Like they will be arranging if you see in medical store, they will be arranging all the tablets in boxes, right? Different boxes. So you can give them a knowledge base where they'll be defining everything entered in a Excel sheet. However, they'll be maintaining an Excel sheet. So if that can be converted into a GraphRAG knowledge base, and we can integrate LLM model, if you just ask a question, where can I find, for example, Dolo 650, it will tell you it's in rack 7, and in this particular box you can find it. So you can say the time also will be saved for a medication who is going to provide a pharmaceutical employee. And in banking sector, GraphRAG can help bankers detect and prevent fraud by representing customers' transactions, account information, and behavioral patterns in a knowledge base. By analyzing a relationship and anomalies in GraphRAG can identify suspicion activities and alert the bank fraud detection system. That's fact. Nowadays, if you see many of them, they call you like, if you are educated, it's not a big deal, but for uneducated people, they call you that your bank is about to block, and if you want it, tell the OTP. So there are many scammers. Those all also can be reduced if you use this. Knowledge graph construction. So input documents, entity and relationship extraction, then knowledge graph generation, hierarchy community detection. So these are the topics which you need to refer about it. In short, how does a knowledge graph or else you can say GraphRAG is constructed? I'll tell you all. Just like you can say. So first it is input document. In a sense, the whatever document you're having, you're going to upload it to your GraphRAG. It is going to take in, then it extracts the entities and relationship. Entities, in a sense, the nodes, like about the people, place, concept. It is going to create a visual nodes like this. Let me show you all the visual nodes. So we'll just search for this GraphDB visuals, and if you go to images, I hope you can find the visuals. Yeah, so this is a simplified version, you can say. So where you can see a simple GraphDB visuals, how it creates, you can see here. So this is the entity, and with this particular node, these all are connected informations. Like if this is a person, about his personal details, his bank account and his current account, everything will be connected here. His loans, EMIs. So for each person, you will be having like this a multiple nodes, you can say, about him, a detailed information. So this will look very interesting when you try to create it. And this is the overall entity extraction. If you try to see, you will feel it very complex. So many nodes, it will look like you can say biological neurons. But GraphRAG is definitely going to be interesting. I recommend you all to try it out. You can see how it is when you try to create it out. It's a Medium blog. You can refer out about GraphDB to understand more about GraphDB. Okay. So once that is done, once all the entities are defined and the hierarchical nodes are created, then it will generate a graph, knowledge graph. So finally the knowledge graph is generated. Then the hierarchical community detection will also be done. Like for suppose if you have multiple documents and for each document you need to maintain a separate entity, right? So instead of that, you can upload multiple documents into the GraphDB, but for each document it will create a high level hierarchical structure. So that on this particular document you have all these nodes, on this particular document you have all these nodes. So you will be having track on that. Knowledge graph summarization, community summarization. In a sense, after this nothing will be there. You need to connect your LLM model, whether it can be closed source or open source models. Right now, I guess mostly ChatGPT is working out with GraphRAG. Even Microsoft has released that only. But if you want, you can give a try with open source languages as well. If you try to use open source LLM models, might be it can work. It can understand. If you connect it with the GraphRAG, it will understand the visuals and retrieve. So user query and local retrieval and global retrieval. So what is user query? Based on the user query, local retrieval. The query is first matched against the community summaries to find the most relevant high-level topic. This allows system to quickly narrow down the search space. Okay. When it comes to global retrieval, within the retrieval high-level communities, the system performs a more detailed search to find the specific entity and relationship and information to answer the query. This involves traversing of the knowledge graph and combining information from multiple communities. For example, like to say simply in local retrieval and global retrieval is local retrieval information about a person. Global retrieval, it will be in very detail about person, like what bank account he is having, what cars you own, what is his loans, his debts, and everything. That is global retrieval. Local retrieval, just a piece of information about a person. So in more detail, you have about local search and global search. You can just go through them. Now it's time that we do this practically. Before that, let's discuss advantages of graph as well. Structured knowledge representation. As I told you also, the GraphRAG has a very structured knowledge representation, contextually relevant. So whatever questions we are going to ask, it will make sure that they are contextually relevant, efficient processing, multi-factored query handling, like you can handle multiple factored query and synthesize relevant information from multiple parts of the knowledge graph. So multiple questions can be handled in, and it can generate answers related to that. Explainability. The structured knowledge representation in GraphRAG provides more transparent and explainability compared to black box language model. So as we have explained, I have explained previously, the same it works on. So you can just read the conclusion and everything. It's time that now let's enter into our practicals. So let's perform, you can say we are going to use Microsoft, let me open it. We are going to use Microsoft for this particular GraphRAG implementation, Microsoft Azure OpenAI. So we'll be using that and we can perform things. You can use normal OpenAI also. But if you use Azure OpenAI, you can get everything at one place and it will be very interesting as well. So let's dive into our practical. Okay, so guys, you all can see my, here you can see the repo here. This is the repo in which you all will be having steps to implement GraphRAG. Okay, so we are going to follow the same steps. First, what you have to do is you have to open any empty space or empty folder you can open. Okay, so in my case, I'm just creating a new folder here called YT. Okay, there is already a folder named as YT. That's great. So I'll open that folder. And yeah, I'll open here and I'll create a new folder again here called GRAG. Simply I'm defining GRAG. And here what we need to do, we have to open our VS Code here, Visual Studio Code. So once you open your VS Code, the next target is to go to your terminal. You can select any terminal of your choice. So I'm going to take git bash here. Okay, so in git bash, what is our first command? Make directory GraphRAG. So we need to create, or we need to define here, make directory GraphRAG, enter. So it will create a directory of the name, or you can say a folder called GraphRAG. So once that's done, you need to create a Conda environment, okay, called GraphRAG env. You can give here any name, but I gave it GraphRAG, it will be great. And Python version is 3.10 because the latest Python version of 3.11 or 12, they are a bit little unstable. So let us use the standard version of 3.10, enter. So it will start to create the VENV, you can say. Let it to create the VENV. Okay, so let us confirm it as yes. So once you click on yes, it will start to continue and the environment will be created. So once the environment is created, what's our next task? So we need to activate our environment. Conda activate dot graph. Okay, so it got activated now. So what's our next task then? Once you just create your VENV and you can start to work automatically. and you need to install pip dependencies. So you need to first upgrade the pip. So you can ask me why we are creating VENV. For those who all don't know, we are creating a VENV because the latest standard versions, whatever, if we try to make the changes in our laptop, if you are working on multiple projects, in one project there will be different requirements, in other project there will be another different requirements. So if you directly change in your root system or in your main folders of installing and uninstalling the environment, so if this project runs for now, that project will not run again. So you will be having these kind of problems, because of which you need to create a virtual environment. So whatever you are going to install, everything will be installed in the VENV or virtual environment. Later, if you don't need that project or that environment, you can just directly delete it out. It's very easy, right? So you don't need to install anything in root directory. So pip is getting upgraded. Let's wait for it to upgrade. By the time, let's go for our new command. So you need to even update your setup tools as well, because there are some setup tools dependencies which are lacking behind for GraphRAG. So we need to upgrade that as well. Once this is done, setup tools, let us install it. Yeah, let's wait for it to complete. Okay, so the setup tools also is done. Then let's go to the main installation, that is pip install GraphRAG. So we need to install a library called GraphRAG here. So pip install GraphRAG. Now mostly this should be installed. Collecting, installing. This will take up some time. Let's wait for it to complete the installation. So there are more configurations to be done. Let me just pause until this installation is done. Yeah, so finally all the dependencies were installed. It took me some time to complete this, as there were many projects, or you can say many backend models running at the backend of my laptop. So it took some time. So let me clear out this. Okay, everything is gone. So you can go back and you can see if you get any error by chance. Mostly you will not get any error once you upgrade your pip and upgrade your setup tools. Still, if you get any error, make sure it is definitely from GenSim only. You will get this error. So when you get this error, make sure you run this command, so it will clear catch the GenSim and you will reinstall it. Then the GraphRAG will work. You don't need to think about the error afterwards once you do this. After this, you have to just initialize a GraphRAG. So to initialize this, just go back and paste this command python-m graphrag.index underscore underscore init and root space dot. Don't miss this dot, okay? So this dot means that it's your current directory where the GraphRAG should be initialized. So once you run this, immediately I guess there should be initializing process going at the back end. So by that time, let's go down and see some more files as well. Okay, so by the time this does, let us go and create our Microsoft Azure OpenAI. You require Azure OpenAI for this. Just open Azure portal. Once you open the Azure portal, immediately we can just redirect to Azure OpenAI. So just search for Azure OpenAI. Then create it. So create a new Azure OpenAI. So it's not there, so let's create it. And if there is any existing resource, you can use it, or I'll be creating a new resource called YT GraphRAG. Okay. Name, let us give anything GraphRAG OpenAI YT. So why we are taking Azure OpenAI here? Because we don't need to go for OpenAI. If you are going to go for OpenAI, again you need a Grok key, and there will be a different setup out there for that. Instead of that, if you take Azure OpenAI, everything, whatever keys and whatever endpoints you require, everything you will get in Azure OpenAI. Next. So again, next, tags, next, and then create it. So it's taking time to review and it will be created. So let's create it. Okay, by the time this deployment goes on, let us see if yeah. So finally you can see here initializing project at dot and it's been initialized. You can see our output has been created, but where is input? So input we have to create right now. And you have the settings.py file as well. You can see here. You have your settings.py file here where you will be having some key changes to be done. I'll tell you. And you have even a .env file where you have to update your GraphRAG API key. For this, let's wait for this deployment to be done. Okay, so by the time this deployment is done, let's see what all are the next things we need to do apart from this. Yeah, this one. Okay, in this still we have to deploy the models. Okay, so make sure you remember this. So let this to go on. Yeah, let's wait for the deployment to finish. Okay, so let's go to resources. And now where you can find your API keys. So if you have been following me on my Azure OpenAI series, so you all know that you have to just click on the resource management and the key and endpoints. If you just click on key and endpoints, here you can see the key. So this is your key. And you can see both the keys. It's not a problem because I'm not going to allow you to use this. However, after this video, I'll immediately delete this resource. I'll paste this here. Key, any key you can take in this board, it's not a big deal. So let me reset this back. So any key can be taken from here. So let's hide the key. And then once the key is done, now go back to your home overview. And don't directly open Azure OpenAI in the same page. Just click left click and open in new tab. So once you click on this, you will be going to Azure OpenAI Studio. Okay, so in this, go to deployments. So what is this deployments and what is this DALI, chat playground, computators? If you want to know about all this, make sure just you have a look on my Azure OpenAI series where I have created a complete end-to-end playlist of 9 videos in which 8 videos are explanation about what is Azure OpenAI and how to use it and what are the different tactics. If you learn that, you will become a generative AI engineer as well. You will learn many generative AI topics as well in that particular playlist. Apart from this, you will also be getting at the ninth the solution video where you have all the solutions which you need to perform in the lab to get your Azure OpenAI certification. You can say there is a certification also for that course which is free. So all the freshers and students out there, rush out, go and get a free Microsoft certification. Check out the playlist link in this video description. So let's go to deployments, create new deployment. And you need to give here the deployment name. I'll give it as GPT-4. That's all. This will be my deployment name. You can give any name and select a model. So I'll be selecting GPT-4o. So that's the model which was capable and we were able to use it. Set it to be standard and default and make sure you set this tokens to 10K, not more than 10K. Then create the deployment. So this deployment has been created. Apart from this, what else we require? So we need to create even a text embedding small model as well. So let's go back to deployment, create one more deployment and give it as embedding. Select the model and text embedding 3 small and auto update. You can see here the quota. So bring it to 10K, create. So this deployment is also done. So both of these are done. Our next target is, once these both are done, then you can open settings.yaml file. In settings.yaml file, what it says is that change the API key from GraphRAG API key to OpenAI API key. Okay. Okay. So for your confusions, you can, even if you feel it confused, you can change it to OpenAI API key. But GraphRAG API key is nothing but the Azure OpenAI key, which we copied right now and updated there. Change the type from OpenAI chat to Azure OpenAI chat. This is because we are using Azure OpenAI, right? Not OpenAI chat. So let us replace this to Azure OpenAI chat and change the model name to GPT-4o. So all these changes will be written for you all. You can just change this easily. GPT-4o. Yeah. Uncomment the API base and replace the with your endpoint. Okay. So model recommendation true and max tokens. You can leave the max tokens and request timeout. Let's uncomment this and open AI endpoint in Azure. So let's go back here. So that's the reason I told you not to move this. Go back to keys and in endpoint copy this URL and paste the URL here. You can even define this in .env, but let's paste it here. And API version, let's even uncomment API version as well. Uncomment deployment name and replace it with your deployment name. So first we are going to use GPT-4o. So it is nothing but GPT-4 is the name of the deployment name. So let's uncomment this and I'll give it as GPT-4. This is my deployment model deployment name. Okay. So what is your model deployment name here? It's GPT-4. That is what we have defined here. So once this is done, max tokens, parallelism, async, you don't need to change anything. Again, come back to embeddings. And in embeddings, again, you need to have a changes, I guess. Let's go back there. So yeah, API key, make it default, GraphRAG API key. Change type from Azure embeddings to Azure OpenAI embeddings. So as we taught, we need to change this to Azure OpenAI embeddings. And text 3 small, you can leave this by default, I guess. So text 3 small. That's all right. Text embedding 3 small. The same name is there, I guess. Create and see it. Is that model the same? Yeah, text embedding 3 small. So we can leave it default. And again here we need to give it URL, API based URL. So let's go back and copy this endpoint URL. Come back down and paste it here. Not this, down. Yeah. And uncomment the API version. And this deployment name will be embedding. We gave the text tree small model as embedding, right? So EMBEDDING. Yeah, embedding. Max tokens and iterations. Nothing is required to change apart from this, I guess. So let's go back and see that. So deployment name uncommented, so it won't raise any error. Okay, so the next target, let's come back to our terminal. So I have autosave enabled, so I don't need to save. If you see here any kind of dot, then make sure autosave is off, so you have to save it manually. Okay, so make directory input. So now the input directory has been created, and in this you need to upload your text file. So to upload the text file, let me just download the text file. Okay, so I have downloaded this text file called Our Mutual Friends. You can see here it has some chapters and it contains even some information as well. So about particular friends and their conversations. These are the information which is available in this text file. So we are going to use this text file. So let me just open that. So once you have made it, so you need to add this dot text file input text data file. So we need to add this to input. Okay, so we have created input, right? So let us add this to input. Yes, move it to input. So once this is done, so what's our next target? So finally we are close to the steps. So we need to copy this to run, to create relationships, graph relationships. So let's go back and let's run this command. Python -m GraphRAG.index root. So once you run this, I guess it will take some time, and since it's not some time, more time, because it need to embed with the model as well. So let's wait for it to be done. By the time this gets done, let me see what else is there. That's all. Only this should be trained. You can simply say that the model should get trained on it. You can see here it has created a text units, mutual friends, so it has extracted the information. So now you can see here loading the file. So file loaded successfully, creating base text unit and creating base extract entities. So this will definitely take some time. Let me just pause this here. So the video length is very high. So let me just pause it here. So finally guys, it's done. You can see here created the input and text units, extracted the entities, summarized the entities, and finally the nodes are created and the document base has been extracted and finalized. So everything is saved in a nodes format. You can see here, if you see the output, you can see here in a report and in artifacts, you can see the data and everything, whatever its logs are there. And the report here, you can see this is the logs and logs.json. And here you have logs as well. This will be saved in a form of Parquet format. You have all the prompts as well here. Now you can directly ask the question to this model right now. So let me just go and check for a question out here. Let me randomly take any question here. I'll take this name and we'll just ask a question. Do we tell now? Yeah, so I'll copy this prompt again. So I'll paste it here. Sorry, command. So in the question, let me write copy, paste. So let's make it simplified. So who is this person? I'll just ask it. Who is MO? Okay, so I'll just give this question and let's ask a very simple question. So it's either local or global method which you have to decide. Okay, so this is an error. 1 second. I have made the keyboard interruption because you have to specifically select whether it's local or global. So I'll just select it as local because only a high level overview is enough. We don't require detail about this person. So enter. Now this will start to extract. On my laptop there are many LLM models and everything is running on the GPU. So even this which I'm recording right now, so the background, everything which you are seeing, everything is on GPU. So definitely this terminal will take some time. Even to extract that and complete, it took me approximately 10 minutes of time. I have just closed that as well, because of which, so yeah, LansDB it's created, so it has created some TensorFlow. So, okay, tokens and everything. So endpoint got it. So yeah, you can see here. Success local search response about the character overview is a central figure in the social circle. Despite in Charles Dickens, our mutual friend, his character is intentionally woven into the fabric of the community, primarily through the interaction at social media gathering, organizing, and newly married couples play a significant role in community social dynamics. So you can just read about this from those text, right? It has extracted, it understood the relationships, and it gave in summary also. You can see here, he is a multifactored character whose social interaction, familial connections, and personal makes him a significant figure in the community. Duplicate of the our mutual friend. This is the book from that book. His relationship with the Winnerings, Lady Lapins, and I'm bad at reading the characters and other characters, along with his reflective nature, contributes to the interactive social dynamics of the narrative. So you can just see here. You can give any book and you can try of your choice. Finally, if you want to see the visual representation, so here there is a Parquet file. Let me show you all. So in this, if you see the outputs, right, in outputs you have artifacts. These all are the Parquet files. If you see the extension, these are Parquet files. You cannot open it, but definitely you can save all these Parquet files into CSV. You can convert them to CSV. Then you can upload it to Neo4j and you can check the visual relationship. So this video is already very long, because of which I'm not doing this method, but you can definitely try out. It should most probably work. So guys, I hope this session was very interesting to you all. Let's connect with our next session and let's make the more interesting videos out of data science and AI. So if you want me to teach any other latest content, comment below the topic and I'll come up with a video. So guys, bye bye. Meet you all in my next session.